Today, we're going to be talking about Overboard and I Kill Giants. So stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television.
It's true.
And I am here with Matt. I'm not going to make it, hey?
No.
That was a joke from earlier.
Okay. And
it's because Matt was a little bit late, but it's fine.
I'm coming straight from work. Y'all just...
It is true.
You know.
I'm not holding it against
hugs
you.
and kisses. Everybody, I'm here with Joel. This girl is on fire. Cunningham.
I don't embrace that. I'm not going to take that on.
I briefly mentioned something about an Alicia Keys song, and then Joel just started singing "This
That's
Girl's
like
on Fire."
The most common one that I know by her. That's the only reason. I know there's a bazillion. She's super famous and everything. That's just the one that popped in my head. So
It's all good. Hey,
anyway,
all good.
Welcome to the podcast. This is where we talk about Alicia Keys
Yes.
and why she is such a great artist.
and hence it's why the real review is the real review.
Absolutely. So this is where we talk about films. And we talk about films a little bit based upon our perspectives. Matt tends to be a bit more of a fan of film, kind of the enjoy of the emotions and the story and how things progress and the fun. And I tend to be more of the critic and the kind of like look at it with a fine-tooth comb and break things down with structure and plotting and everything. And we put those thoughts together, give you a real thought and perspective where you can join in on this journey that we are both going on to learn more and see more about film and television.
Together.
Yes. Together. Yes. So join for the journey. Matt, why don't you give our journey participants some ways?
Participants.
I don't know what the term is for that. Some ways to get connected to the podcast.
Y'all can get connected with us in a myriad of different ways, one of them being our website, which is realreviewmedia.com, in which you can link into all of our social media outlets, which is facebook.com /Real Review Media, and they have Instagram and Twitter at Real Review Media, then youtube.com /The Real Review. And also, you can email us. Let us know what's up. Let us know if there's a movie you liked. If you heard one of our reviews, didn't agree, or you did agree, let us know. We want to hear from you. So email us, ask us questions. Maybe we can actually start answering some questions on our show.
Yeah, that would actually be a fun idea.
That'd be
if
pretty
you got
cool.
any questions.
So send them our way, just about movies that you've seen or stuff that you predict for future, whether it be something related to Star Wars or the MCU or you know, all that stuff.
Matt likes to make the predictions. I do too, but
Yeah.
you tend to do it, I think, a bit more
I
often.
deep dive into that stuff. I love it.
Your most recent prediction is on the upcoming Han Solo film.
Yeah, I got a good feeling about this, just like he says in the trailer.
Yeah, and I just keep saying I wish that it had been just John Thomas from the Star Wars universe. If it had just been some random bloke that I didn't know anything about, I would have been 10 times more interested.
How many people are going to go see John Thomas, a Star Wars story?
I would. I would be more likely to go see John
I don't know
Thomas.
about that.
Yeah.
But anyways.
In a galaxy far away, John Thomas.
John Thomas.
Anyway.
Email us your questions and tell us if you're excited to see John Thomas, a Star Wars story.
There you go.
Directed by Ron Howard /not Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
All right.
So anyways, that's how you can get connected with us.
Well, thank you for
You're
that.
welcome. You're
So
welcome.
let's get into it. Let's start talking about some podcast films. We have two films, as mentioned, we're going to be talking about. We're going to start off with our first one that I had a chance to see.
Yes.
It's a film called Overboard.
This is a remake, right?
This is a remake. Let me I'll
right.
give the description and then we'll kind of get into a little bit here. In a splashy new twist, get it?
Ooh.
Overboard focuses on Leonardo, played by Eugenio Derbez, a selfish, spoiled, rich playboy from Mexico's richest family, and Kate, played by Anna Faris, a working-class single mom of 3, hired to clean Leonardo's luxury yacht. After unjustly firing Kate and refusing to pay her, Leonardo falls overboard when partying too hard and wakes up on the Oregon coast with amnesia. You know, long story short, Kate then basically ends up pretending like she's his wife and then tricks him into doing all this servitude type stuff in order to pay off the debt that she accrued when he threw her overboard and all of her gear for
Seems shady.
not paying her. Yes, a little bit shady. Directed by Rob Greenberg, written by a few people. Rob Greenberg, Bob Fisher, Leslie Dixon. It stars, as mentioned, Eugenio Derbez. I might be pronouncing his name wrong, but I don't know. Anna Faris, Eva Longoria, Mel Rodriguez, John Hannah, Josh Shigara, and Swoosie Kurtz. I've seen her in a few things, but I haven't seen anything that she's been in for a while. So, I actually remember the first Overboard.
Okay. Yep.
I don't know if you
Goldie
got a chance to. Yeah, Goldie Hawn, Kurt Russell.
Kate Hudson's parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And I remember watching it, and kind of even at a young age. I saw it, I think, first time when I was like maybe 11, and kind of realized that it kind of had one of those feelings of like a straight to DVD, or well, at the time, straight to VHS type movie.
Yeah. Betamax.
But overall, I enjoyed it because I tend to like kind of fish out of water stories, and I like redemptive
Splash?
stories. Yeah. But I like yes. Stories about people being taken out of one type of lifestyle and being put into an extremely different one, and then of them sort of overcoming, having to learn how to deal with it. And I think the strength of that original movie wasn't in the humor. It wasn't in really anything beyond just the simplicity of the plot and the two main characters.
The relationship between the two.
Yeah, they had Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn at the time were together. I think they're still together. I don't know. Maybe they broke up. They were together, so they were beaux. And there was some real actual tension. There was some real actual romantic tension on screen. Even as a kid, I could feel that. And there was a real strong line and understanding of the stakes that were kind of at play with the original film of what they were going for. And the kids, although they were kind of frustrating and annoying, that was the role that they were supposed to play in the film, is that they were annoying little brats that needed to grow up because they didn't have somebody to like teach them how to be a better person. So overall, the first film, it wasn't an amazing film, but I enjoyed it. And kind of has, I wouldn't say a cult following, but it's kind of like a simple little fun film that people can watch and you can just kind of zone out to and enjoy. It's got some good moments and stuff. And so I was actually really surprised when I heard they were doing a remake, because it was like, why?
Everybody was clamoring for it. You don't remember hearing about that? Everybody was like, we need an Overboard.
We need an
remake.
Overboard, and we need Anna Faris to be in there. And we need so I wasn't planning on actually seeing this, I'm not going to lie, because I felt like the first one was fine, and I generally don't like to give in to Hollywood when they do this type of thing, where they're just really cashing in on modern sensibilities in the sense that they're like flipping the dichotomy between the guy and the girl.
But also taking a bit of that nostalgia piece.
Right,
too.
and then they're taking the huge nostalgia aspect of it being a film from the past. But I needed to watch a film.
You had to watch a film.
Had to watch a film. So I went and saw this, and wasn't super happy. I didn't enjoy it a lot.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I like. And here's some of the stuff.
This movie got the most money this weekend, right? It was a take.
Really?
No, just kidding.
I'm like, wow. I did not look at Box Office Mojo and find that out.
What was
but-
that other movie that came out a couple weeks ago? That's
Oh
still
yeah,
like
probably
$1
something with superheroes. I'm guessing. Yeah.
something like that.
Anyway, the two main actors in this, I'm a fan of for the most part with their acting careers. Anna Faris and Eugenio Derbez. They both can be really funny, and
Just Friends.
yeah,
I love that. Anna Faris in that movie's great.
yeah. So was she in that one?
Yeah, she's the singer, the pop singer.
Oh yeah. I was thinking the other girl. Sorry. No, she's hilarious in that movie. Yeah, she plays this really like stupid but kind of funny, good-hearted but also bad-hearted character in a lot of movies. And she does it so perfectly. And this film, I think actually, the sad thing was, I actually think it did a disservice by flopping the roles.
Oh, okay.
I think she actually would have made a much funnier kind of like heiress type girl and being like, no, I'm too good for everybody that's around me.
Yeah.
Whereas he would have played a much better kind of like just whatever guy living a normal life.
Right.
I think the big thing though, one of the big things about this movie, and I mentioned this with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, there was chemistry with those two. These two really, I just did not have any sense of any chemistry forming between the two of these. Like, this did not make any sense. I could not see the two of them ever really realistically getting together
Even
outside
the
of this movie
5-year-old
universe.
version of you.
Yes,
that
even the
sense of romantic chemistry between Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. You couldn't see that between these two.
11,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, 11, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, these two just, there was no sense of any chemistry happening between the two. It literally felt like they were taking a role and they were playing a role and trying to eventually have it, come together. And they did some weird stuff, and I'll kind of spoil this a little bit. Like, if you don't want any spoilers, maybe skip ahead. But
It's a remake of a movie that's existed for 30 years. So.
But they tried to, spoilers for the original Overboard.
Yeah.
Sorry if I spoil anything there. They tried to tie it very closely to the original, even to the point where they set this one in the same town as the original movie, and they even talk about the events very briefly, but they talk about the events of the original Overboard in this movie.
Really?
Yeah, and I was waiting for some sort of tie-in. I was waiting to find out, like, oh, this is actually their like granddaughter, or something like that.
Doing the same thing. Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn show up.
I was expecting one of them to be, honestly, I was expecting that to happen at some point. It never did. And I was actually kind of disappointed about that because I was like, well, that would be kind of neat. I guess it's kind of like a follow-up to the main story.
Right.
But they tied so many, like there's this whole like thing about Arturo, which they twisted around and made into the stupid thing. There's some of the exact same plot beats of like, things that they say and the way that they act at certain times. I found this one to be much more mean-spirited.
Ooh.
The first one definitely had some mean-spiritedness.
Sure.
But you really get a sense at the very beginning of the film with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell's character that they just are like oil and water. I mean, they're just
right.
Really, because he's just complete country bumpkin, lives out in the boonies, middle of nowhere. Whereas Anna Faris is kind of just like your everyday girl in this. Like she's down on her luck in the sense financially, but she has a good heart. She wants to do the right thing, and she's just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And Eugenio is kind of the same. Like it's more like he's just lived in this circumstance where it's kind of made him a bit of a butt towards people and self-centered. But he's got he's generally like he talks through the beginning, and they're kind of like nice to each other and everything. And then he says some stuff that's rude, and then it's kind of like he throws her over the board and throws her in the water, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever. It is what it is. And then she proceeds to, and I will also say this, the first movie, in a way, although a stretch, made sense that this could realistically happen. But living in the culture where we live now, with the internet, with social media, this would have been so impossible for something like this.
Yeah, there would have been some record of like who this person was, pictures of this
100%.
person. Yeah,
they would have been, and he is the heir. He's the son of the third richest guy in the entire world. There would have been a way that they would have tracked him down. They would have had people, because they make this, and again I'm spoiling stuff here, but they make the idea that he falls overboard and then he just disappears, and then his daughter, or his sister, sorry, who wants to take over the company instead of him, pretends like he died.
Okay.
But they don't investigate it all. They don't figure out the circumstances of it. There's no sweeping of the water. There's nothing happens. It's literally she just goes, says he's dead, and comes back with ashes that aren't even his. And then that's just it. And it's like they would have social media. They would have, you would have a Facebook account and Twitters and Instagrams, and there's just so much. The Twitters. There's just so much chronicling of history that would have had to have taken place.
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Come on.
So I don't know. So it just felt a little bit more of a stretch to try and believe that they could fake this guy
Suspend
being...
your disbelief a little bit there.
Yeah. So that was one thing, and just the fact that, I don't know, I'm not going to go into that too far, but the mean-spiritedness really played in the sense that, she treats him like crud. I mean, she tells him that he can't have kids, that he used to be fat. She makes him sleep in a shed and pee in a bottle. Just all this, and just for basically not paying her and throwing her overboard.
It's retribution is what it is.
But it's more than retribution. It goes to the extent of torture.
And cruelty.
She makes him work 3 jobs, cook and clean the house, basically do everything for her. And she still kind of runs a job and studies, but it's just she treats him so awful. So by the end of the movie, to me, it didn't, in the first film, it made sense that Goldie Hawn kind of ends up falling in love with Kurt Russell. One, because he's such a charming fellow.
Oh, yeah.
But additionally, she really understood through interacting with him and through interacting with the kids that her life had a lack of purpose. It had a lack of meaning. It had a lack of connection and depth. She was a bored, heiress in the first movie, and he expanded her life. He added to it and grew her into a person that really could care about people and wasn't so egotistical and self-centered and pompous. Whereas with this movie, he learns that, he's maybe a little bit self-centered and egotistical during the flip when he kind of realizes finally what's going on. But it didn't really, there was no real reason that it felt like he needed to stay with Anna Faris. The kids weren't, in a sense, as impacted by him as it felt like in the first movie. His life wasn't anywhere near as they improved each other's lives.
Okay.
They made things better for each other. In the original movie, Goldie Hawn encourages Kurt's character to really branch out and take on new opportunities. She organizes his house and makes him feel like he can actually accomplish things, but he's still working really hard. He's taking on 2 jobs. Whereas this movie, it just felt like Anna Faris is like, I'm just exhausted. I have a lot of stuff going on and I can't make ends meet. I'm just going to make this guy my slave and force him to do all this horrible labor and stuff for me.
So was it funny?
And no.
It wasn't funny.
And that was
like that's what they were going for too.
Right. And that was the thing that kind of killed it. Like, I can put up with a lot of that other stuff, and I think it's fine. I think, and this is, a judgment of potentially people's perspectives on life and family and things. And I'm not married. I don't have kids. And I know that a lot of people these days operate with like the 2 household incomes and stuff. And I'm not saying that there's like a path that families have to go down. But the first movie made a lot of sense because there was an area in Kurt Russell's life with family, with his kids, with his house, with his homemaking that he couldn't do. He wasn't capable of doing. He wasn't raised in that kind of society or that mindset, whatever you want to call it. And she very neatly and perfectly kind of fit in to that thing where it felt like with this movie, they were searching for areas that he would fill into.
Okay. I gotcha. Yeah.
So, and the humor wasn't there. I think I chuckled like twice. There was a couple moments where there was kind of a back and forth type thing that happened, but none of the hijinks, and like Leonardo's character has a lot of like pratfall type moments. None of the pratfall type stuff landed for me. Really? It made me laugh. No,
just like he'd fall over and be like,
yeah, you would just be kind of like, okay, well, I feel bad for that guy because you feel like he's kind of like, I felt like I connected with him, and I'm like, wow, I feel really bad for this guy, and I'm sorry, but realistically, into this is going to sound really probably awful, but I feel like if this guy were to find out like, hey, I've got tons of money, I've got a yacht, I've got a company I can take over, I think he would have just left. I don't think he would. Yeah. They had to for movie's sake, but I don't think realistically he would have come back to her because I don't think that's the thing with the first movie. I felt like in the first movie, Goldie Hawn realized that there was a lot of elements that she really not just learned about herself, but she connected to in Kurt's family, that she gained from being a part of his family. Whereas I don't think Leonardo really had that experience. It was more of just like he learned not to be self-centered. Mm-hmm. That's kind of it. Yeah. They try to do a thing with cooking where he's learning how to be like a really good cook and stuff, a chef. Yeah. So not a great time. I think the extended cast did their best with it. Mel Rodriguez kind of had a couple of lines that were more funny. Like he was probably the more humorous out of everything. Okay. Even Longoria was just kind of there. She didn't really do anything. Out. Yeah, she was like she was married to Mel and they're best friends with Anna Faris's character. Yeah. So it's just it really felt like an unnecessary movie.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay. It came in second this weekend.
Well, out of everything else, there's not much else that really came
true.
out.
Hey, by the way, A Quiet Place is still in third.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm still not going to plan on...
You should go watch it. I love it. It's my favorite movie of the year so far.
I'm just not ready for the jumps.
Okay.
It'll
be fine. Just whatever.
I'm waiting for it to come out at home so I can turn the volume way down and I know something scary is going to happen. And
turn on subtitles even though
makes
there's
you sound like such a child.
A paragraph of dialogue in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
What's your breakdown of this thing?
My movie rating, I'm giving this one a 73.
So
73. Like a C minus. Yeah, 72, 73.
Okay, I gotcha.
It's shot decently well. It's acted okay. Although Eugenio, I felt like he was just kind of in the film. But yeah, the whole thing just kind of felt felt unnecessary. It didn't like anger me beyond the little stuff that I felt like they had added that was unnecessary. But yeah.
Okay.
An unnecessary remake.
So it sounds
sequel.
like...
It's like a sequel, and they're doing this sometimes now where they create a movie by the same name, but it's like a sequel.
It could have been something. They did that with Ghostbusters
or like
too.
A remake. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, they did it with another movie. I'm trying to think. Like The Thing. I don't know if you remember that.
That was a prequel.
It was like a prequel, but it also had the name The Thing.
Right.
And it's just like, what? Why don't you just call it something else? I don't know.
Like Before the Thing.
Yeah. They could have called it like even more Overboarder.
Right. Overboard.
Yeah.
Or just bored.
I like it.
That?
Just
I gotcha.
Overboard, cut out the
see that?
over.
See that there? I should name movie titles.
Or just Over It.
You should name movies.
Over It. You should. All right. Let's move on before we get too far down this horrible bunny trail.
Okay.
Why don't we get to your movie?
Yeah. Let's talk about I Kill Giants. This is more of an independent release that I was kind of interested in seeing. The synopsis has it as Barbara Thorson struggles through life by escaping into a fantasy life of magic and monsters. And really to kind of expound on that, because these descriptions are usually never that good. It's more about this young girl who's trying to cope with different things in her life by living a life immersed almost like she's in D&D, basically Dungeons and Dragons.
Gotcha.
So to give you a breakdown, this was directed by Anders Walter. Stars a lot of people I've never seen before, with the exception of a couple people I have seen. So Madison Wolfe is the main character. Then you have Zoe Saldana, who we all know, as Gamora. And then we have Imogen Poots, Sydney Wade, Rory Jackson.
Just to clarify, she's not Gamora in this movie.
No. That's
Although
good
that would have been a
clarification.
good tie-in.
It would have made sense, though, if she's like in this mystical world in her head.
That would have been fun. I would have.
Yeah.
I might have watched it.
But here's the thing that I can say with this movie. I thought this movie was just okay. We're kind of feeling similar on what the movies that we saw this week, and this movie is trying so hard. Now, I didn't know this till after, but it's based off of a comic book run, apparently, in 2008 or so, by the same name, but it's not really the same. Basically, this movie is like it's like it watched the movie A Monster Calls, which is an excellent movie from 2 years ago, and is trying to do the same thing that A Monster Calls did, but not nearly as effective.
Okay.
So for reasons that you don't really learn about until maybe the last act of the movie, this girl, Barbara, is obsessed with Dungeons and Dragons. She is incredibly rude to everybody because she sees herself as more knowing and knowledgeable than everybody else, and just sees herself above them and she doesn't really, bullies pick on her, but she like doesn't care. She's like, you don't know anything,
which I can't stand when kids are like that.
So basically she, and that's my first problem with the movie. But basically she ends up, she in her mind, she kills giants, and it's related to stuff that's going on in her life. And you got to go into this movie, it's knowing it's not a genre film. So it's not like it's not a monster movie. It's a drama in a way that A Monster Calls is a drama. And
It looks like an action.
It's kind of like spoiling, but not spoiling a little bit. There are some action-y elements, but the movie isn't crystal clear on what exactly it is. Like, is this self-projected? Is this something that she's dealing with trauma with, or is this something that's actually happening, that she's actually seeing? I tend to lean towards the first one.
Yeah.
But there is some debate among what this is. So the problem with this movie is right up front. The main character is so dislikable. Like, you just do not like her at all. She's not compelling. She's rude to everybody. I like some of the mythology stuff that she talks about and goes through with giants and all that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But she's unlikable. There's a person that she meets right at the beginning of the movie that they kind of become friends just by default because the person just moved there from England.
Yeah.
And
oh, you talk like this, bro.
It's kind of, they mention that. She's like, I like the way you talk, like that kind of thing. And but she's like rude to her at first too. And the girl's just like, well, I don't know anybody else, so I'll just hang out with you, And it's really forced and just like an awkward, like weird friend relationship. And the girl is just rude. And then you have Zoe Saldana's character, who's like a counselor at the school, who's trying to get through to her and be like, hey, this stuff isn't real. It's in your mind and all this. And there's some like questions back and forth on that throughout the whole film. But it's just so like mediocre. It won't commit to it fully. And I think the thing that was hard for me, they give you a little bit more to like about the character too late in the movie. Yeah. I feel like. And they just started you off like, wow, she must be going through some tough stuff, but she is so dislikable. Yeah. And it's really unfortunate.
You have to, like in a movie with curmudgeon-y type characters, you really have to surround them with like everyday kind of people a lot of the time. Otherwise, you're just like, who am I connecting to in this film? Like a film like As Good As It Gets. Right. I don't know if you remember that, but like he plays such a jerk and a completely different genre of film and everything. But, he's surrounded by people that recognize that he's a jerk and they're trying to change him. You know what I mean? In the course of that
Yeah.
film. So you can't. I don't know. It's tough when you have a kid in this type of film because the idea in most kid films is like the kid is always right in these types of films, and I can't stand that.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes the kids need to be wrong, and that's one of the things that I loved about A Monster Calls.
Right. Yep.
The kid was in the wrong
Right,
a lot of that
right.
movie, and he has to deal with the repercussions of that.
Right, exactly. There's even a line where this girl's like, I don't have many friends. Most people are dumb anyway. And like, she's like, like, kind of a thing.
And in the script, they probably treat it like, yeah, they are. Like they actually are. Or she's justified in feeling that way.
Right. That's kind of the vibe that I got from it. The movie was shot well. There's some really cool imagery when it comes to some of the giants.
It looks like
and
it.
stuff.
Yeah, I'm seeing some of the shots.
There's some really cool imagery. A lot of it is reminiscent of A Monster Calls. Actually, kind of gray skies, bleak and like foresty and trees, and stuff like that. And some of the CG looked really good. Some of it didn't look very good. It's kind of a mix. It's a little bit low budget of a film. That's probably why. But as a whole, it was just kind of disappointing. I felt like it was trying too hard to be A Monster Calls without kind of creating its own thing.
Yeah.
And it's not nearly as heart-wrenching as that movie is.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. Just kind of, it was acted all right. Yeah.
Do you think if they had switched around the lead, it would have made for a better movie? Like, do you think that would have projected into maybe a higher echelon, or like what held this back maybe from being a higher quality
for
movie
me personally? My biggest thing is I have to have a connection to whoever the story is focusing on, or have it sooner than later. The example, kind of like what you were talking about with As Good as It Gets, another one is Darkest Hour, because dude, Churchill was curmudgeon-y to the max in that movie, but you kind of like see him and you get on board with him eventually. Yeah. This one you kind of get on board with her a little bit, but not really. Yeah. They don't commit fully to it to bring you on board, to kind of sympathize and empathize with what she's going through. You do a little bit, but not fully. At least for me, I didn't feel like it was there, and it was too late, way too late before they started kind of bringing you in. A lot of the stuff was cool. Mythology stuff was cool. Some of the design stuff on the creatures was pretty cool. Nothing like crazy that I haven't seen before. Very, again, Monster Calls-ish. But other than that, it was meh. I don't know. I was disappointed. It looked really cool from the trailers, and there's some people giving it really great reviews. Yeah.
It's doing decent on Rotten Tomatoes. Let me see here.
Right.
77?
Yeah.
It's got an audience score 90%.
I see. I don't know why. Maybe I'm broken.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe not a lot of people have seen it. There's only about 1,200 reviews on it which isn't a ton. I mean, it's some, but it's not a ton.
I don't know. I just was turned off by just the way that this main character was portrayed at the very beginning. I'm like, come on, this is crazy. Yeah. Anyways, visually, cool stuff. I did like that. It's probably the best part of it. Positives. Some of the mythology stuff was really cool. I did appreciate that. Yeah. But yeah, that's really it. I don't know. Is there any questions or anything you can think of?
No. I think it makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 70, C minus.
Which is fair. Yeah. So there was 1,200 user reviews. Yeah. For actual reviews from like critics, 44. Okay. They got it about a 6.5 out of 10. Okay. So
I gotcha.
Average user ranking. So that's kind of right in the range.
Yeah, maybe the whole time. Maybe it's because the whole time there's so much that's in tone the same as A Monster Calls that I was just comparing it the whole time. Maybe these people didn't see A Monster Calls, which is a superior film in my opinion.
Or they've seen so many movies they've forgotten about it or something.
Right. And I was just like, man, this is trying so hard to do it, and it's not. It's trying to imitate it, and I don't know. It just wasn't.
I'm actually intrigued enough, I think, based on what you're saying, to maybe check it out. Okay. Just to see in comparison if I can compare and contrast, kind of, or if it just stands on its own or something. Yeah,
something like that.
So cool.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I got.
Anything else?
No, that's it. 70. So C minus.
Cool. Well, with that, then, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up on the podcast. I want to remind you again some ways to get connected. We have our Facebook, which is facebook.com/RealReviewMedia. We also have our Twitter and Instagram, which are both at Real Review Media, as always spelled Real, REEL. We also have our website, which is realreviewmedia.com. Did I already say that?
Yeah.
I said it twice.
Something like that. It's all good. People can always know where we're at.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, we do have a YouTube page as well where we
Yep.
post video reviews, youtube.com/
The Real Review.
Yep.
Yep.
And then, as Matt mentioned, we would love to get some questions and thoughts and perspectives from you, something that maybe we could spend some time answering on the podcast here. Send us some emails, realreviewmedia@gmail.com.
Yep. Tell us how excited you are to see
Yes.
John Thomas, a solo Star Wars story.
John, way to call it
Yep.
back. I
John
totally
Thomas.
forgot about that. Yeah.
JT.
The other thing I was going to mention about Overboard, I totally forgot about this.
There's a boat.
No, it felt like they were trying to do this huge amount of tie-in to like Latin culture.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to the point where it was like it felt very forced. Like a lot of the dialogue was Spanish. They went to a lot of like Spanish restaurants. A lot of the humor and the family drama was like all Spanish influenced. And it felt like they were trying to make like almost a Latin America and America film.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to do really well overseas.
I wouldn't be surprised at that
Not
either.
even overseas,
Yeah.
but just Latin America. Yeah, so I think that
It made sense.
see.
It felt forced.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
doesn't look like it's opened yet, but should.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, but that was another thing that kind of worked against it. It felt very forced. I'm fine with the crossover Latin
Yeah.
American culture. It
Yeah.
was like you're forcing these aspects to be in there versus just letting it naturally happen.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Anything else?
Okay, no, that's it.
All right. Well, it's been real.
It's been real.